about STEMA Library for Chemical Revolution Studies. So I have also the pleasure of inviting and announce the contributor talk of Bruno Dias, who is talk about chemical way global cluster Milky Way global cluster chemical evolution based on full spectrum fitting.
Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's my first time in the series of conferences. It's a pleasure to show and share some results of my work that I've been developing using the STEMA library. So I think that I can show you some very good, nice results that you can do using the spectral libraries. And I also point out some issues here, or like some nice points for discussion later about how to use them. I'm currently at ISO. I'm currently working at ISO in force-2 instrument. So I also use force-2 instrument here for the data analysis. I was previously in Brazil working with this library, so I'm also a scholar with all this background here in stellar evolution. But my idea is to do this with the future going towards like more extragalactic stuff, or maybe local group, or not so far away. As far as I can resolve stars, I'm happy. Okay, so that's the core team. So when this project started, I was not even born in astronomy. So this is the core team who actually got the first ideas, and the first observations were actually in 2001. So now we have a collection of data. Amazing. So do a quick introduction here, mainly for students, and to have a broad context of what I'm doing. And then I present the Gotham server, and finally the stellar spectral libraries, and then I point some nice results. Okay. So as I told you, my idea is to study galaxy formation evolution. But okay, wait, so you're studying stars over clusters, how does it work? So there are two ways to understand galaxy formation evolution. One is to just go through the time, cosmological time, redshift, observe loads of galaxies, and see how they evolve in average, and put them like in the Hubble sequence, for example, and see the Hubble sequence, how it evolves, and then you see like red or blue galaxies, you have more structured galaxies, spirals, ellipticals, whatever. And then, for example, you can focus on the Milky Way type galaxy and put them in a nice plot here with age. And then you can see Milky Way type galaxies evolving through time, in the first time. So you say, okay, I have an idea how the galaxies form and evolve, and then you can derive many more parameters than I'm showing here, of course. But then, if you look at the very early, so if you have in the very early evolution of the universe, on the Milky Way, if you're looking at the Milky Way here, you can see that the globular clusters, they form the very beginning of the Milky Way. And you cannot access this information in the galaxies. So with globular clusters, in principle, you can observe globular clusters in the Milky Way, which very much detailed. So when I look here to these galaxies where a few pixels, and I look here with a lot of pixels covering one star, so okay, I'll go for it. So I prefer to study like very detailed stars. But then you think, here I'm looking galaxies in the very early stage of formation, and here I'm looking at an object that was evolved for billion years. So what kind of information I can retrieve from these objects now that are telling me the story of the universe? So this history. So of course, we have here age-metallicity relation for globular clusters. The Milky Way, you can see here it's not new. 2005 there was a compilation of age-metallicity for globular clusters, and then have another one with more precise ages for Hubble and different metallicity scales, and they have claim that there are two sequences here for this clusters and halo, and then they're trying to get some agents for both as well, predicting that should be even higher here. And we are doing something similar with our results as well. So maybe with metallicity and some chemical abundances, you can try to retrieve information from the early universe and try to understand how galaxies from above. So this in a broad context, you can even apply to other galaxies. Then it comes to the survey. So as observers, when you have a question and then have to be broad enough to do for a survey, observe as much as you can. But of course, you don't have infinite time in telescopes, and then you don't have infinite time for high-resolution spectroscopy if you want to do the detailed chemistry, go for a large surveys like ISO, Apogee, and so on. But of course, they're limited in the details of individual objects. They're more like in the broad context, complementary to our survey. But in our case, you are really globular clusters, as I told you, to focus more on the early stage of formation. And here I show our targets. They cover the inner parts of the Milky Way, but also halo, disk, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to cover as much as you can in representative sample. So I told you the observations were done with Force 2 from 2001 to 2012. So I have covered a lot of red giant stars in this cluster. I have like some papers here as well. So what is sample? Here we try to cover, I told you, a representative sample. So the first thing is thinking about metallicity, which is the most important parameter we are thinking of. So here I show a histogram of the whole sample of catalog globular clusters in Milky Way in gray. You see the bimodality and so on. And in colors, I show our samples. And you can see that they are split in halo, Gaussian disk, so we cover all the components of the Milky Way, and also cover the full metallicity range. So we're okay with that. And here I show cumulative distributions in terms of metallicity, mass, distance from us, and reddening. In black is the total sample, and in red it's our sample. So our sample is like 51 clusters out of, it's 1/3 of the total sample, and they are pretty much correspondent to the total sample. So they represent well in terms of Milky Way globular cluster system. So you can use these clusters to drive some conclusions on the Milky Way itself. And of course, we have some challenges. So if you want to go broad with many objects, have some challenges with reddening, because if you want to go deep in the bulk, you have some reddening problems. If you go for a high resolution spectroscopy of bulk globular clusters, it's very tricky because they are reddened, they're fainter. It's hard to need a lot of exposure time to get these very big telescopes. So it's not very easy to access this information. So low resolution spectroscopy would kind of contour this problem. The distance is the same. I mean, the more distance you go, the fainter the stars are, and then the signal to noise and resolution as well. As I told you, if you have like a high resolution spectroscopy, which would be ideal, have to spread more the light and more time to the scope and so on. So what can you do here with low resolution spectroscopy? That's the question. This seems to be the solution to all these issues that may happen. So here I show synthetic spectrum, a metal poor and a metal rich star, identifying some. That's not like I cannot call these lines, but I present here. I mean that these features here are most affected by iron lines, magnesium, and so on. Here, the magnesium one triplet, the optical. So you can see that there are many iron sensitivity here, and also magnesium. So we can have also HB, sodium lines, and some others. So the information is there, even if in low resolution. So how can we extract this information from here? Here I also show the coverage that we go for it. With the Force 2 was the solution. So with a 2000 resolution spectrum. So here I show the histogram focus on it's a beautiful instrument. It's like working since 1998. And it's still the most productive and most requested instrument at ISO. Now we can use it so on. It's becoming the second, but still very productive. Here I show the distance versus reddening for component in the Milky Way, just to show that we can reach very readily as red as 1.5 in optical. In distance, as distant as 80 kiloparsecs in the halo, which is more distance than the magnetic clouds. So we can go for magnetic clouds with these techniques very easily later. So, okay, so as a promise, and we are in this workshop to go for libraries, and then full spectrum fitting is a technique that encompasses all the information that I showed you that are present there, and that was the way we found that was the best to retrieve information. So here I show at least how we choose a library. I don't think that I can present any answers to what's the best library. There is no right or wrong on this, and it depends on your purpose. So for our purpose, I show how we define the library. Here it's also a synthetic spectrum, and so I think that so Polaroid showed some plots from video games, I guess, showing the effects on the lines in low resolution as well, of only temperature, only gravity, only catalyst, only alpha. Here I show templates in black, and in blue and red they vary only temperature, fixing the other parameters, varying only gravity and so on. And I show that for temperature, you have a signature here, that's typical RGB star. There is a signature of temperature that is different from that of gravity, catalyst, and alpha. Although, if you look at an individual line, let's say this one, individual feather, it seems to be correlated with catalyst in temperature as expected. I have some correlation here. If you look at the magnesium triplet, it's also like correlated here, alpha and gravity. You have like a lot of things that if you do Lipinsis or some other techniques that are focused on specific feathers, they will fail. We tried that for this purpose with this resolution, it didn't work. So we thought, okay, so if you do full spectrum fitting, the combination of all parameters altogether, they will have a unique shape of the spectrum. So if you can reproduce a spectrum with a given spectrum of the library or a combination of spectrum of the library, you should retrieve all these four parameters. So we were happy with that. And also comment on the previous talk already. Mentioned that okay, with the low resolution spectrum, you can only derive temperature and catalyst, and you have to go for a high resolution to derive also gravity and so on. I think that this depends on the precision you want. That may be true, but I'm showing here that with it, even with the 2000 spectra, you can derive some nice parameters. Okay, so here it's a bit of putting the table some discussion about empirical and synthetic library, because I discussed this a lot in the project. It's well known that there are many advantages and drawbacks in both. So with the synthetic library, you have a good handling on all parameters. You can create anything you want. You have also well sampled grid, so you can control better the parameters. You have control sampling as well. And in an observed library, you're dependent on what's available. Right? So in this case, I show here for Coelho's library 2005 and these libraries here. And then you can see here that, for instance, the red ones are metal-rich stars with temperature and gravity both very more or less homogeneous in this region. And these isochrones from old isochrones of 13 gigahertz produce the global clusters. But if you go for metal pool, black and blue, they're more like towards the brightest stars, you don't have much here, so the sampling could be an issue if you do like blindly full spectrum fitting. Also for the alphas, here I have like a squared sample for the libraries, but they're limited to 0.4, which are the most hard models, and for the middies or observed ones, they're basically less solar neighborhoods and maybe some alpha hands here, but you don't have alpha left here and so on. So
where do you get these
from the millennium, under the millennium. Yeah, I think that's the only abundance available for this time. And then, okay, so let's see, what can you do? So these are the fits. So black is the observed spectrum for metal rich and metal pool star, which are here, fitted against middies in Coelho. So So they reproduce well the shape of the spectrum. You'll have some variations in the parameters. But you can see that the residues here are pretty much okay, and of course for the metal reach have more noise here, but still the signal is 0.05 or 0.7, here 0.02, so it's fine. So I think that this could be applied also for other like thermals, downmodes, music data, things with similar resolution could be used for this as well. So here there's a training set. I'm not using machine learning, I'm using monkey learning. What I did basically was, okay, let's do whatever we can to understand how to derive the best parameters here. And the idea was basically, we use LOD's library, degraded to our spectrum, to our spectral resolution. And we try to derive the parameters or try to recover. The idea was, we have a chi-square fitting method. That's the, I'll put some other slide maybe. David Katz developed a tool, it's called Etoile, but he's now working in Gaia, so I mean, it's based on me, I'm adapting this code and work on this to develop more towards the RGB side. So the idea was, it's kind of rank, given library, when you fit against your observed spectrum. So you rank by similarity by chi-square, kind of chi-square, and then to derive the parameters afterwards, it's on me. So my idea was, okay, so what if I take an average of the given first n template spectra, and I can get an idea of the parameters, temperature and so on, because I don't have like an infinite grid to have the best match is the specific parameters. So what I did was basically this. I mean, I was taking average of the first two, first three, first four ranked spectra, and try to see if these parameters reproduce the parameters we knew from the LOD library. And these parameters I took from the Pascal catalog. So pretty correct because of this stock. So the Pascal catalog, I assume that these are the parameters for the LOD library, and I try to reproduce this with our library. So you can see here the temperature, metallicity, and gravity range for the RGB side of our study. And here I have a nice correlation for the full range with a dispersion of 88 Kelvin, 0.04 for metallicity, and 0.16 for gravity. And we don't have information on magnesium, but we can see the trends in magnesium versus metallicity. And the common thing we found was not like a given number of spectrum, but a given threshold in the chi-square. So I think that Nicono already presented something that she can comment with us on this slide, that if you divide the chi-square by the closest chi-square, then you have like 10%, more or less 1.1. So with this 10% range, it was enough to recover the thing for all the stars. So that was our criteria for millis, and for Coel it was like more well sampled. We just like took an average of the closest, the 10 closest stars, which is good, but fails maybe in the borders of the parameters grid. And here, I mean, was presented by Rodolfo also with the Gaia ISO. I've also checked the temperature, gravity, and metallicity of the derived parameters against isotopes to see, okay, do you have any trends? We have to correct these or not. And then the idea was with millis and Quater, we have slightly different coverage, and this is because of sampling, because of all the advantages and drawbacks I saw before with the two libraries. And the working solution, we can discuss about physics later, but I mean the working solution was to take an average of the parameters derived from both libraries. So when you do this, apparently it kind of compensates both and takes the advantage of both. And then we could recover this for temperature, gravity, and also for metallicity. So here I show in black, it's like UVs, and metallicity for globular clusters that are well known, and our fine metallicity in black. And in red and blue, I showed the metallicity derived only with millis or Quater libraries, and in black the average. So the average only are here, so we can concentrate here. And the idea is that the dispersion between our and UVs, high resolution, is like 0.08 backs with a coefficient of determination. That's like pretty good for linear relation. There is an issue here with the meta-rich data, because the reference starts with Carreta, Senko, the UVs data set. They did not have meta-rich global clusters. So we had to go back to the literature and try to understand this and see what was the reference we used. And in fact, we found out that the reference we used was exactly the metalist we derived. So we are pretty sure that my idea with this plot was basically, okay, let's find a correlation between our and high resolution, so we can calibrate and then find our scale, and then we put everything in the same scale, and then we're fine. But my surprise was I don't need to do that. So the low resolution with this was already an agreement, it was already very good for the full range. And this is only true because all the libraries and everything before it's already known from high resolution, etc. So if you have a control sample control library, we can infer the parameters afterward with very good resolution. Okay, so our contribution here to meta-rich data was that, because I mean the UVs, they consider like very metals over solar abundance metallicities, and they're wrong. They agreed with that after discussing with me as well. And then I mean kind of improved here. You can see that for the meta-rich, for the metal pool, we kind of agree, but for the meta-rich, we have an improvement here where different. And then if we take our metallicity scale and apply this to all metallicity scales that came before, that was the same exercise that was done by Carreta's group. You can see here the comparison with Harris catalog, which you cannot consider like truth, but it's a reference. And Carreta's, the latest compilation of Harris, they use Carreta's scale, even though they have a difference here, some dispersion, which I don't understand why. So here, if you consider our compilation, they're pretty much in agreement with lower dispersion as well. So I strongly believe that this new metallicity scale should be used now, and we are in agreement with the meta-rich with Apogee and so on. So that was the first point. The second point, now it's a bit quickly finishing. With the chemical history, I promised that I also measure some alpha abundances. So remember here the abundance of alpha against metallicity that gives you some information about type 1 and type 2 and type 1 external events. In the past, people tried 96, 2005 to do some compilation of closer clusters, and they showed that the abundance of alpha elements are constant with metallicity, but they only have metallicity up to minus 0.5. And here, even with the meta-rich guys with Carreta, as I told you, they don't have this region here. So what we do, we are homogeneous, but we are low resolution. So here, above the minus 0.5 and below, everything seems to be constant. But here, it seems to have some difference with previous thing. And I call the attention that here, I show magnesium from Millie's library in the right. And all the spots here, my follow for process are the total alpha. And I try to compare the total alpha with individual abundance from literature of other alpha elements. And the alphas are this one. And there is some difference here between like calcium, titanium, and magnesium. We know that they are formed differently, explosive or nucleosynthetic process. And this comes to the third point as well, which is that we have the full spectrum fitting for the visible, but we also have the same sample of stars in the concentrated region. So everything I showed was basically my first author paper works, but the other part of the group are working the calcium triplet as well. So the calcium triplet, it's calcium lines, it's not iron lines, and they need to be calibrated against metallicities. Okay, so people claim that this calibration is universal, but they're not. I mean, we saw that before, that like few stars and globular clusters, they do not follow the same frames of calcium over metallicities, especially in the meta-rich. Here I show what we have only from our sample, all the points here are average equivalent with different calcium triplets against metallicities. So you can do that with pores, with these techniques of twist spectrum fitting and calcium triplet. So you see that there is a tight correlation here for the globular clusters, which is fine, expected. But if you compare this with other scales that transform these calcium triplets into metallicity, you see that there is a discrepancy here, especially for the metal rich. And these two green and red lines, they use globular clusters for the metal pool, and they mix this with open clusters and bulge stars. So bulge stars and open clusters, they have a different chemical evolution history than globular clusters. So, I mean, they're kind of obvious, but I mean, apparently people seems to be okay conservative with these and say, okay, the calcium abundance does not affect too much the calcium triplet. Is that if you define a scale here using globular clusters, you should apply it to globular clusters. Use these with open clusters, you should apply to open clusters, and so on. So the point is that if you want to go to other galaxies, they also have different chemical values, enrichment patterns, and so on. So if we want to do that, we have to first calibrate everything. Otherwise, it can be biased in the results and so on. So just like a take-home message. So we have like a new metallicity scale improved in the metal-rich scale. We show that the alpha elements abundance directly different depending on the case, and we also improved the calcium triplet versus metallicity abundance. And before I leave, I'm organizing a workshop in March next month. The research is already closed, but stay tuned for the presentations. That would be very nice in this sense of discussion and collaboration between collaborators in the Milky Way and going to dwarf galaxies or even more distance collaborative systems that could be useful for SSP models, even with respect to fitting. So that's it. Thank you.
I have more than one question. First of all, you showed, in the beginning of your talk, you showed those illusory tracks, isochrones. And it's known that when you start varying alpha element valences, the evolutionary tracks change. How do you take this into account in your interpretation?
Well, I have to check this, but I think that the uncertainties that happen temperature and gravity do not allow to see much on this. I have changed the.
As far as I remember, Conroy has corrected it by just adjusting the temperature scale by 200K. 200K is quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay, I have to check that. I remember that I put the isochrones, and I remember if I have this in this specific plot, but I remember that I put the isochrones with alpha enriching alpha deflected. These, I think that's only varying temperature, gravity, and metallicity. You can see that there is a blue and a CN lines here. They are kind of the uncertainties I have in temperature, gravity, and metallicity. If I include alpha here, if I remember correctly, it doesn't increase much more than that. But I'll double check with Charlie.
Okay, so the second question is about, well, it's a comment that I kept bringing this point in the global cluster community that when you use calcium triplets as a proxy and claim that it's one-to-one match with the metallicity, it's not really true. And however, people have a lot of resistance against it because some of the results about the bimodality, they actually come from calcium triplet, and then they have tension with the color bimodality. Basically, your bimodality in both cases, but it doesn't, the objects don't respond to each other. And now the question is about the, have you heard about the works by Eben Kirby, who does more or less the same stuff in more galaxies?
Yes.
So, do you have any comparison?
Not directly here, but I have some comments. He's using 6,000 resolution spectrum, a bit higher. So you can see a bit more like some individual lines, but he's using only concentrated region. So he's taking like nearby lines.
Yeah, he's also doing
Yes, yeah. So it's very interesting. We're pretty much in the same track.
Yeah, I have three quick questions. One is in transparency show first, we have a globular cluster labeled disk that was metalist -2. That's
Well, this classification I took from Carreta, 2010.
right at the beginning. This is,
Yeah.
this green square is disturbing.
I agree. No, there is more. Even 47 tech was considered disk. You see.
Yeah.
So the point was, no, this was considered, it was taken blindly from Carreta. I saw that there were some outliers that did not agree, but I couldn't classify it again. This was based, I mean, outer halo and pouch, they are clearly from the distant, like galactocentric distance, and inner halo and disk, they are based on distance and velocities. I mean, they try to do a plot, 2D plot, and try to put a threshold, and so this is inner halo, this is disk. But
So I didn't understand if it was about classification, it was about the metallistic. An error is metallistic, but then
no, I think it's
the metaphor tail of the thick disk ends at -1.5.
Yeah.
So somebody at -2 cannot do this.
Yeah. No, there's still missing because the
Yeah.
classification was just a reference, but they didn't go into this.
Okay. For the apogee, when you say then the calibration metallicity was okay with apogee, you know the apogee metallicity was calibrated, right? So I'm always in doubt when somebody uses it, if you use the uncalibrated or the calibrated metallicity of apogee. And in the middle reach end, there was a little bit of a tweaking problem, and some people adopt one calibration, others thought that calibration was not best one, and it's exactly in that range where you were showing. So just to be careful which calibration of apogee you use in the pilot and steering.
So I was discussing with people from Apogee, Carlos Carbon and the other guys, and they just like showed me their laptops. Okay, so this is like the final metallicity I have, the average, and they kind of agree. So it was okay, saying, okay, so metal reach seems to be fine, but they had problems with the metal core, actually, because the lines are very faint in the H-band.
That's true, but the reach
Because the metal reach
and
is,
shift.
yeah.
But anyway, the question I have to you is that this, what you're doing here, do you think you would go a step, that would make a lot of difference for you if you were working with some spectra at 5,000 instead of 2,000? Why am I asking this? Within apogee, within foremost, we had a long discussion to push for at least 5,000 resolution. We had some people made some tests and then made some difference. Also, in the hope to get some individual chemical elements from moderate, let's call it moderate resolution, it's low resolution. And that came from the rave perspective, because in the rave there was 7,000, but there was only the concentrated there, so to restrict. And in the foremost, we said, okay, we're going to have an extended spectra, not so much as extra, but we have an extended spectra. But then with resolution 5,000, we will gain a lot more possibility. So what's your take on that? What do you expect between 2,000 and 5,000 to make it more precise?
I think that's the same question of Stephen Kirby. I mean, he's doing like the 6,000 resolution spectra. It could drive some individual alpha elements analysis. Because he has more like signal and some individual lines, maybe in the infrared part, close to the concentrated. Because for most scoring also determined very well.
Yeah,
Also because of the
because the main
so you can
problem is
see
also
more
the blending with the lines. When you get to very metal rich end, then I doubt you can do much.
well, it's a
I
kind
see
of
you
philosophy
can.
of indices, right? I mean, it's not like an atomic line, but it's sensitive too. So if you can isolate these in the sense of
The next question, we don't have enough time. The next question, very short.
You should also, at some point, the titanium and some other elements illustrations. How did you do that? How did you determine it?
yeah, no, if I comment that, it means just the overall. I'm comparing the overall by derived using the synthetic library with titanium calcium from the literature.
If I'm not mistaken, your magnesium problem was different from the alpha.
Magnesium was different because they could derive magnesium from, because the full spectrum fitting works that I fit the spectrum shape and then I take the parameter from the library. So for magnesium, I took the information from Nilis, and the alpha I took from here. Yeah, and the alpha I took from Coelho's library. Yeah. So here, all these three plots here, all the crosses from our results are the same. So they're actually alpha, the average of all these elements here. So I'm trying to see if this trend, they are more related to some particular element. Because I'm trying to see if these spectral regions, so it goes back to this question, because then you have the magnesium triplet that's here. So I mean, of course, magnesium is like very heavy there, but I'm not sure about the other elements with all the blending in this resolution. So the first exercise is to compare the whole alpha with individual elements, and the second exercise would be like currently we're working on this now, synthetic spectrum. I mean, synthesize specific spectrum with the atmospheric parameters I have, and try to vary only a specific given element frequency, something like that. But that can only have sensitivity to magnesium with this resolution. Maybe with a high resolution, I can start to see some more types.
I think you are saying the correct approach to derive individual element balance for alpha elements, as I did for magnesium that I've done overall change of all alpha elements, but only measuring the magnesium triplet. If you go to individual line of calcium, titanium, you are going to derive the elements, the balance of these elements. So you don't have time to make any comments more. So let's thank the speaker again, Bruno. So we are going to move to the second roundtable of this workshop. Not going to be the chair. Please. Who is going to be? I don't know who is the chair. You prefer to put the chair there? You prefer that? Okay. Let's move your individual chair to that direction. The back of the